I'm live. This is Melissa with Synchrosoma, and you are watching 6 Steps to Coping Better. And I'm just going to kind of um, drag out this opening a little bit so people can start showing up and tell you guys that I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to share this data with you. And please bring your comments and questions, be comfortable, have some water here with you, something to take notes on, and anything else that kind of gives you like whoa, a good bit of comfort as we go through this. Now, my last class on intuition, we went almost to an hour. I'm going to try to keep this under an hour if possible. But I really want to answer any questions for people who are here for the live. I really want to answer your questions and have some time to do that. So between these steps, I've broken it up into 6 steps. And between the steps, we're going to try to get to all these questions. If anything looks funny, here, tell me in the chat and I'll try to see it and fix it. So anyway, here we go. Um, I want to welcome, especially those people that are coming later. Not especially, but if you find yourself on this course sometime in the future, I'm just inviting you into our circle. It's like we're creating an energetic circle right now with the people that are here live, but also because time works a little bit differently in reality than in a linear way. It is a big circle, and we're all here actually together. So we can all kind of lift each other up and help each other get this data and really dive into this work. And now we will begin. So, reminder: this is this is here for. Hi, hello, welcome. This is educational purposes. I'm not giving medical advice, even though we're working with habits, possibly addiction, all of that stuff. If you want medical advice, please go to your care provider. Okay, so along those lines, you are not powerless. You have agency. You have what it takes to meet this challenge of how you've been coping potentially in ways that haven't been as self-supportive that they could be. Or maybe it's just sort of like gone on so long, the brain is sort of locked into that system of using whatever tools you have that aren't as helpful, maybe some harmful. So, but you have power, you have choice. You can start to work with whatever's going on. And that's what the purpose of this course is, to really bring additions to your life. And so we don't care too much about subtraction or taking things away. We care really about adding things to our resources. And magically, what tends to happen when we add is those additions kind of move into the places where other things had been. So that's why we use this process. And let's see. So backing up your intuition here, we're going from addiction to addition. And if you have something going off while we're talking here today that is sort of speaking to you and you're having some aha moments or resonance, just take some notes while we're here so you remember. And if you want to comment here, tell me what's happening. Okay. Step number 1, here we go. The main thing that I have identified with myself and clients and people I work with is the getting stuck by what we would call something like self-criticism. So that under voice, sometimes I call it, or the inner voice that is constantly criticizing myself or talking, in that quiet way, in a negative way. So this is what we want to attend to first. And if this is the only step that we get to in this process of addition and working with reducing harm around, habits and cravings and addiction, that's okay. We want to start by hearing. So how do we do that? How do we work with that? Um, the thing about the critical voice is it's often all or nothing. So this is why we're kind of switching from subtraction to addition. That under voice or that critical voice will say, quit entirely. And if you can't do that, you can't get anywhere with this habit. And it's simply not true. We when we go into that forget it attitude, when we start to just sort of sabotage ourselves on this path of reducing harm, we've stopped before we've started. We've put an end to the possibilities. So we want to keep it open. We want to not be in the future telling ourselves that we're already not going to succeed. So that's the first thing, is to work with this, the voice of you can't do it, and whatever, however we learned that, to criticize ourselves. Maybe it was just constantly getting grades in school, and the universe sort of saying, you got a C on this. So that's number one. We're going to get out of the all or nothing thinking and the throwing it all away. So what we want to first add to our reality is that we're on a quest. We're the hero. We're on the hero's journey. And instead of just being in self criticism, we're going to see this as a fun, if you want to gamify life, do that. But it's a journey. And so that's how we're going to show up for this. And I've got something so good coming. You're going to love this. So well, the first way to kind of address this critical voice and this all or nothing attitude, and to get the addition, adding something to our process that helps us reduce harm, is to name what is behind all of the habits and coping strategies that have been harmful. And even if you don't believe me, even if you've got other, data to say it's something else, there's a lot of people out there really specifically trying to give information about what it is that causes habits to form. I don't really want to worry about that too much. I just want to give you my take for this class for reducing harm, and I'm going to call it stress. And for today, we're going to call it Mr. Stress. So we have to first name what we're experiencing, why we would be coping in the first place in a way that's harmful. There's some kind of stress, there's some kind of challenge, difficulty, stress that I don't in this moment have capacity to deal with. So let's see. So when we're kind of gamifying or seeing this as a hero's journey, we can just say hello to Mr. Stress. And okay, so stress, I'm craving something right now. I must have some stress. I'm dropping into my habit. I'm scrolling. I'm clicking around on the TV. I'm wasting time with this or that. I'm stressed out. So that is the number one thing. So if you don't get anywhere past this, that's the place to start. So we want to address the critical voice by noticing it's coming from a place of stress. And we'll get to some somatic work in a little bit to help us kind of get that in a little deeper. But for now, let's pause for a moment. And does anybody have any questions or comments about stress, craving, habits, scrolling? If there's a specific thing that you want me to address, like a specific habit, we can also talk about that. We can really go into whatever it is. And I'm just going to kind of peek over at the chat to see if anybody has. Okay. So I'm glad you guys are here again. Thanks for coming to the live. I know it's a big deal to get somewhere on time and when something's happening. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so step two is what I'm calling association. And so if I'm taking this on, if I'm saying, okay, challenge accepted, I am going to start adding things to my life that are going to reduce harm and give me some resources, the first thing I want to think about is association. What are my connections? Who am I associating with? And the very first thing to associate with is self. So, friendly to self is number one. That also comes with coming out of self criticism. And I want to add my resources. And I want us to think about these friendly things that are either in a human body or in a nature body or in some other form as our friends. These are our buddies. Okay. Um, so, some things to associate with or to start working with this idea is nature. I already said it. Um, so, instead of thinking about, so what happens is the mind goes, I need to take this away. I need to stop scrolling. I need to stop doing all this stuff. We're going to do this additive process, right? So, I'm going to use my addition of nature. I'm going to spend some time in nature. I'm going to spend some time doing activities with friends. I'm going to start to be associating with things that I know. I'm using my logic to add to my reality. Um, it's okay to use the brain. This is what the brain is for, is logic and helping me to come up with these great solutions. So another way to associate, obviously, get a coach, somebody who you can associate with and count on for help around, what's underneath the craving, addiction, habit, avoidance. This is how we get to do the work and get it up and running in our lives, as if we have, it's not just about accountability, it's about the connection. Two makes more than two. It's an exponential thing. So when I start to add these resources of nature and friends and people who are kind of on a similar path, then, and that's a huge bonus if your associations are people that you share a common language with. If you're doing shadow work like me and you are connecting with a path around archetypes and shadow work and somatics, find those people and speaking the same language with them. You'll have this common um, way of walking through the world. Okay, and then the third part here, the third part of part 2 is the idea of mentors. Now, mentors are different than your coach or peer in a way. Mentors tend to be people with tons of experience in a thing, whatever it is that they're mentoring in. And you might think that that has to be a human being. It doesn't. It can be, and this is the the great beauty of our world. It can be a book. It can be written by somebody who's been through what you're going through. And even if it's quotes, from this mentor about the exact thing that you're learning about or adding, so now we're adding the association through, our logic and our consciousness training, and we're starting to kind of dig into another path. I'm not worried about what I need to get rid of so much as I'm adding, new resources. So we're 2 rungs up the ladder so far, and I'm making good time. I wanna know if there's anybody out here who has any comments, questions. Not so much. Okay. I will look back at the chat. I mean, I don't think there are. I think I'd see it, right? Okay. So, rung 3, step 3 up this ladder of attending to what we've been kind of not attending to, maybe avoiding in terms of habits we want to break or get somewhere with is what I call organizing. And again, we're not subtracting, we're organizing what we've got. So we're not trying to, throw the TV in the trash if that's our place where we cope a lot. We are, again, going to add these organizing principles. And so, one that I really like that I call the chore brain is I stop doing the back and forth in my head, and I kind of adopt this attitude of okay, I go on a walk at noon. I have to go on a walk at noon. I go on a walk at noon because walks happen at noon, and it's noon now. So it's not me really having a conversation with myself or listening to the criticism. Oh, I just never. I'm just using this kind of logical, organized tool of rewiring my brain to be a friend and to be what it's supposed to be doing, which is a secretary. I think a lot of people think the mind is supposed to be this like brilliant problem solving, machine. And if you're watching this, that's not true. The mind is interested in creating, you know, junk and thinking and future tripping. So we start with this thing of, chore brain. I just go on walks at noon. That's what I do. Okay, so the next part here is the next thing we're adding. Remember, adding, adding, adding. And if you go back and watch this again, you know, check it out. And we're going to come to some things that we can reduce, but for now, we're adding. And the next thing I want to add is really great. It's this idea of adult fun, but like a child. So childlike, but adult. And this is one of the, this is one of the main things that I think people start going into habitual stuff is because they stop having fun. So remember when we said hello to Mr. Stress when we're craving, avoiding, um, self-critical, all or nothing attitude, sort of throwing away possibility. Well, in this instance, we're saying hello to Mr. Fun. So the Mr. Fun is a great ally, very wise, very ancient, because the most ancient people know that being sad and not having fun is not what life is about. It's about doing what we want to do. So the next thing we're going to add, like nature, is part of organizing this system. It's sort of like Mr. Fun comes in to remind us that our job as grown-ups is to continue to have childlike fun, but as an adult. So the thing we're going to add is games, toys, dancing, spelunking. I have spelunking on my list because I just thought, well, what if you guys live near a cave? And I always think I want to go spelunking, but I don't have any caves nearby. So, rock climbing gym, we're going to add, okay? So I don't care if you're sticking with your habit and you're scrolling and you're doing that thing, but you're going to add something fun, roller skating, games with your kids. You're going to add it, okay? And this is just, I know I'm saying this a lot because, but this is the thing is that the um, all or nothing thinking is self-sabotaging. And if I'm believing that that's the path forward is to just subtract the thing that I'm harming myself with, often it leads to not getting there. So we're starting, it's as if there's like this bowl, right? It's a bowl full of my um coping strategy that's harmful. And I'm putting a bunch of stuff in it. So the bowl gets kind of full. And then Some of the stuff that's a little harmful just doesn't have any space in there, and it's going to kind of naturally, I mean, this is how physics work. It just, it's not going to have as much room there as I'm adding. So Mr. Fun is our great helper, and there's also a secret weapon coming up. So stay to the end for that. But Mr. Fun, we're going to say hello. So I've said hello to Mr. Stress. I notice I'm stressed out because I'm trying to just scroll. So instead of that, I'm going to say, hello, Mr. Fun. And what do I want to do now? Well, I've already picked out 5 things. I'm already dancing, and I'm already um, on a spelunking mission, and I've got some games that I love. So that's what I'm going to add. So I want to be prepared. So part of the organization is just being prepared, knowing where the classes are, knowing where the climbing gym is, where is the place, okay, to go. What do I do? I'm using my chore brain. Okay, on Thursdays I go to the climbing gym. Now's the time to go to the climbing gym. I go to the climbing gym. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not tripping on it. I'm not wasting a bunch of time thinking back and forth. Well, I don't really want to go, and oh, I got to get on the bus, and I just don't bother with that. I just go. That's the chore brain. Notice how the organized, childlike adult thing is both organized but also concerned about fun. That's really important. I just want to highlight that fun is the way to be a grown-up. Harm reduced fun, the right kind of fun, the fun, the fun that doesn't uh, have you feeling. That's the adult fun, okay? The fun that doesn't have you brain locked and even having symptoms based on the less fun, the stress, Mr. Stress's attitude. Mr. Stress's solutions are not so great. Mr. Fun solutions are great. Okay, so oh, I have a note here. Just so you know, there are a lot of coping strategies that actually make things less and less and less fun the longer we use them. And I'm sure you could think of substances or whatever. There's not a lot of substances that don't reduce your natural fun if they're used over time. So this is a really good strategy to add fun things, and will eventually work towards lessening the harmful part. I hope this is making sense. If I'm not making sense, somebody tell me. Okay, so here's the recap halfway through. Harmful coping is ruled by Mr. Stress. Harmful coping is ruled by Mr. Stress. Coping better is supported by Mr. Fun. It's that simple. Okay. Coping better equals Mr. Fun. Okay. And, my language, my naming, you can totally change it for yourself. This is how I have fun. This is what I'm doing right now with you guys. This is my fun. So it's my naming. You change it, go for it. Totally up to you. Now I want to do a little somatic work around this to kind of get it. The thing about body is it anchors and helps us to really even know that I'm stressed out. So I'm going to stress you out a tiny bit so that we can notice how it feels. I want you to think about something that, I had something really bad on here, but I don't want to use that. Think about something lightly stressful, like standing in line at the DMV, and just close your eyes for a moment. Standing in line, sitting in traffic. And what I want you to do is just feel your body. You might not be able to feel something very specific. It might be an overall sense of jittery or tight or something like that. Just notice how your body feels when you imagine this um, this thing that is uncomfortable. And just give it a few words to describe it for yourself. Like, oh, it's suddenly I'm tight, or ooh, it feels hot, something like that. Okay. And then just kind of let that go. Open your eyes, move around a little bit, like shake it off. And now, and just note that. And if you didn't feel anything, there's lots of different reasons why we have trouble with inner feeling. And that's one of the really good reasons to get a somatic coach, is because if I'm not feeling inwardly, I want to start somewhere and learn how to um, connect. There's lots of other things that can cause some numbness or lack of feeling. Okay, so now, very simple. This is such a simple tool. Think about something that you really, really feel good about, like sitting at the beach or listening to trickling water at a stream, hearing really lovely music, whatever it is. And just notice how, as you close your eyes, notice how that feels when you think of that good thing that you love. And just take a few minutes and then give it some words like calm, soothing, warm, whatever the words are that describe this feeling. Hmm. Yeah, somebody's saying uplifting. Great. Yeah, and so come on back and just shake that off and just notice that you might feel like uplifting. You might feel something that makes you feel like a lot of energy rather than sort of like relaxation. It might make you feel like, oh, mojo, like I want to go do something. And sometimes for some of us, it can be the flip. It can be like, I think of something stressful and I get excited, and I think of something I really love and I feel like depressed or down or a blah energy. And that's really interesting because it's just part of how we unconsciously work with things. And for a lot of people, good things have been linked to bad things. So there's almost like well, this is good now, but it's going to get bad. Or, you can kind of use your intuition on this, why that happens. But um, anybody else have any experience with that? And you can come back to this, just rewind it, do it again, do it without my voice, and just keep testing it out for yourself. Okay. We are halfway through, and we're going to climb up to ladder or rung number 4. And this is another this one I'm calling interrupting patterns. And this is about, doing something different, mixing it up, um, starting to get good at noticing, when Mr. Stress is around, doing this thing we just did, feeling body. And you can literally do this with everything that you're experiencing, like, oh, I'm at a party. How does this feel? Feel down into my body and notice how it feels, and just start getting good at tracking that. That way, I'm going to start rewiring my brain. So I'm retraining myself to, in this kind and friendly way to myself, I'm retraining myself to not respond the way Mr. Stress has wanted me to respond with my harmful coping strategy, but I'm going to start responding with Mr. Fun's coping strategy, right? So I'm interrupting and getting good at practice, and I'm just starting to interrupt these things. So obviously it takes time to retrain the brain. We want to have patience and we want to have kindness. Um, so one of the things that I teach people to do is just out loud talk to these parts of self, like as if they're right here. Hi, Mr. Stress. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. Got it. And so that's a really good thing. That's a really great way to interrupt the old pattern, is to make it weird and just, out loud talk about it. Um, so if Mr. Stress is around, then probably what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body is activated. We have some stressors going on. So I want to notice that. And another question that I like to ask is, so I'm adding, I keep forgetting to say that, but I'm adding the new thing. I'm adding the hello to Mr. Stress, and I'm adding the question. This is a good one to write down. Am I pushing past my capacity right now? Do I have capacity for this thing that I'm doing right now, or am I pushing past? Is this something I'm going to have to decompress from and find some way to deal with the stress later? Okay. So capacity is a big deal. I have a lot of these topics are on my podcast. You can always go find the Synchrosoma podcast and get more data on these specific points like uh, capacity. But that's a great question. Okay. The next thing I'm going to add when it comes into interrupting these patterns is new patterns. So the old pattern is on Mr. Stresses. We already talked about fun, Mr. Fun. We're also going to intentionally do things that are like adult fun. They are adult fun, and they're practices that are time tested and just awesome. Adding somatics, adding yoga, the original somatics, adding intentional rest, adding dropping out of mind into body, breath work. These are things that, they're almost like in the culture, we think of them as a little hokey because they've been around for so long, or, it seems like, but seriously, 10 minutes of sitting and relaxing is like getting a really good night's sleep. So we're going to handle the stress by adding these adult um fun, but kind of like it's like body maintenance. I of course have to recommend somatics and yoga because that's my path, and yoga is just an incredible pattern. Breath work is an incredible pattern. So we're interrupting patterns by adding new patterns. We're saying hello to Mr. Stress. We're being kind, patience with retraining the brain, adding these new patterns. We're doing new neural pathways. It takes a little time. Give it some time. Give it a couple months before you say, I'm going to go back to all or nothing attitude and throw it all away. Give it a couple months. Okay. So anything coming up for anybody? Anybody want to challenge me on any of these points? I'm here for it. Am I pushing past my capacity? Okay. So we are up to 5, rung 5. I'm making great time. And at the end, if you have questions, if there's anything coming up at all, we can do it at the end too. So the next thing, and I kind of bridge to it a little bit by giving it a couple months, is we want to start slow but be consistent. So rung 5 is consistency. I think I recap all the points too at the end. I go over, maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, I do. So consistency. We want to be making this a priority. We want to start with the first steps. So the consistency thing is going back over this list. And if you're taking notes, it's right there. You can go back and maybe you guys don't know this, but you can watch videos at double speed or at like 1.5 speed. So you can skip through this video as you watch it again to get the points again, and then slow it down when you want to get deeper. That's something that I absolutely love about this channel, this platform. So, so you go to the first steps, and when you're feeling brave and you've got your mentors and your coaches, or, you're using like some person that's been down this road before you as help, you've got your associations, you are going to um, actively make some moves. And the thing that I call the solo journey of spiritual growth is about that this is part of my path. This is a really important aspect of my path. And so I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to make this important. So the first three steps, at least first three steps, fourth step, are all the main part of this work. I've got a question. Are you saying interrupt the pattern and add the new practice in the moment? For example, hello, Mr. Stress, and then do some conscious breathing. That's excellent. That's an excellent idea. I don't know if I was saying that, but I love it. Okay, I'm stressed out. I'm going to close my eyes and take 6 breaths. Excellent. That's a great idea. Yeah, so that's a great way to interrupt. And we can add that right to the consistency part. So I'm going to do that every time. That's my adulting moment. I'm going to notice that I'm stressed, interrupt the pattern, take a few breaths. Uh, you know, um, am I pushing past my capacity? Where's Mr. Fun? Quickly. We can kind of get good at doing this stuff quickly. I have a note here to be careful about recovery vampirism. Maybe that's enough. But another consistency thing is to write in your journal every day. I'm just really careful with systems and people that are creating programs that are all about like helping you, that charge you a lot of money, because sometimes those things go culty. So just be careful with adding consistency, that it isn't necessarily a cult. That was my note here. But your journal, associating with yourself, self-friendliness, like that's something that you could do consistently. You could write every day, even if it's just an emoji. You're like sad face today, happy face today, but it's setting up this new pattern. You're getting the new pattern going by consistently doing it. So another bold move might be, okay, every time I have breakfast, I scroll. And then that kind of sets me up to continue scrolling. So instead of breakfast scrolling, I'm actually going to pull my book out that I, read a chapter of every morning. Something like that. Something that feels like it's adding back to and it's easy to put a book down for a lot of us, unless it's an amazing book. We can say, I'm going to read one chapter and then put it down. Whereas there's so many things in place to activate your brain when you're scrolling, or whatever the other coping thing is, that makes it a little harder. So we're being consistent. We're doing it a lot. We're doing it every morning. We're doing it every day. And as a side note, it's possible to do this with heavier substances, like any dependency that you have. I know about, I haven't used it, but I've heard about an app called Reframe that people they are really loving about alcohol addiction. So there are other systems, and Reframe is interesting because what I've heard is that I think they might have group stuff. And they are not into this thing of like, oh, I've got 30 days. Oh, I've got 100 days, where it seems kind of like the focus is on that subtractive process. The focus is on harm reduction. So and I'm sure there's other apps for things like that. So that's helping yourself get consistent with that kind of stuff. So the other thing I wrote on here, which is kind of a fun idea, is calendaring the path. So if I'm being consistent and in my calendar, I'm writing a emoji every day, um, I've got this calendar. Now I might also have a goal, like, okay, I want to reduce harm because I want to, on my calendar, I have this spelunking journey So I want to get, I've got to walk 2 miles a day if I'm gonna walk 10 miles next month every day on some, you know, trekking trip, that kind of thing. So I'm starting to add, and this is a bolder move. If this feels too much future, too much uh I don't believe in myself that much right now, then you want to go back to the first steps. Okay. Now we're on to the sixth thing, which I feel kind of amazing. We got through it, but I want to answer any more questions. I want to make sure that I answered that last one pretty good. Um, Interrupting the practice in the moment, and also, having a new practice when you interrupt in the moment, Mr. Stress. Um, and also practicing it when you're not stressed. That's another thing about yoga, is that when you're setting up a new pattern, when you're getting consistent with something, whatever it is, whatever the practice is, it becomes the new thing. And I know I'm not telling you guys anything that's super, super new, but I'm giving you somatic practices, archetypal somatics practices, and other things that are really what I have found to be great additive things. Okay, so let's move on to the sixth rung. And obviously, this isn't the 6 steps isn't the only thing you might find. And that might be a good piece of homework after this class, is to go back and wherever you took your notes, think of other steps, past my 6. So, my suggestion here is to start a consciousness training journey or spiritual path, or anything that's not culty, anything that doesn't require you to, wear a special jumpsuit and um, do whatever, but something that is your path. And the one I like, the one that you don't need any kind of religion or any kind of spiritual beliefs to be on, is the hero's journey. This is the ultimate ideal, totally all inclusive. Anybody can do it, any age. I mean, little kids get this like crazy. uh it doesn't matter if you're 100 years old. The hero's journey is an incredibly great, supportive, strong template for growth. And this is one of the reasons why I use the hero's journey for all of my um what do you call it, newsletters that I put out. It reaches into the psyche. It's called the monomyth too. It reaches into the mythological universal psyche that makes life organized and kind of makes sense. Okay. Then I also have here, yoga's the best. And maybe not for you. But and I'm not just talking about hatha yoga where you're doing poses and stuff. The yogic path as a spiritual path, and it's not a religion, it's a set of habits to form, like stretching, like the sun salute is like a cute little hero's journey. It's a salute to the sun, it's a hello to the morning, it's a hello to Mr. Fun. And okay, so I've got to say, shadow stalking as a spiritual template is the best, along with yoga, because it makes shadow work part of every day, and it frames the difficulties as shadow. It's just such a complete, simple symbol and archetype to encompass so many things that are challenging. My addiction, my habit, my difficulty is all part of shadow. I have a place for it. I have put it in its home, its container. I'm the witness. I'm noticing it. Okay. And then part of this other path idea is your self-study. Um, that's a legitimate a legitimate path, is I am studying myself. In yoga we call it sadhana, but it's this turning back and letting the universe be my reflection, letting the world be my reflection. Let's see. Decoding work. We're like a scientist. When we're self-studying, we are scientifically using our brain the way it's meant to be used, and we are um, becoming a little scientist, which is like the little human on Earth is like an adventurer, scientist, explorer. It's all about Mr. Fun. Even the difficult things can become fun when I'm doing that. And so I've got a homework assignment here, which is just to journal about what stressors I've had in the present or past. Okay, so anything before I do these final thingies? So the takeaway is address the stress. This is the big thing, is to start to get the link between my not so good coping strategy with my stress. And like, if you're already doing the homework assignment, like, what are my stressors? Then you've got this thing coming out of shadow. It's in the light. You can just have it and be aware of it. Um, so the secret weapon. The secret weapon, maybe you guys can even guess. What is the secret weapon of this work and the way I've been framing habits, addictions? Anybody have any idea? There's a few of you here. What is the secret weapon? I'm going to tell you. The secret weapon of this course, of shadow stalking, of oh, that's a good one. Somebody said sensations in body. Yeah, sensations in body, definitely. Absolutely. And I'm going to call it something um archetypal. Your problems are your allies. Your problems, and that could come up in a sensation in body. I don't feel good. That's an ally. It could be an illness. That's an ally. It could be I don't have money. That's an ally. And this is the great work of um, shadow integration, somatic shadow integration, is to know that whatever I think is a challenge or a problem is actually my ally. So let's recap briefly the 6 steps. I'll just go down them. Address the criticism, association, organize the data, new patterns, consistency, and be on the path. And that is your complete. If anybody wants to say anything more or comment or about anything that's happened so far, your next thing to do is to go back and watch my last class if you haven't, on intuition. Be ready, to subscribe and get notifications for any future classes. Anything at all coming up before? Get my newsletter. Find me on Instagram, Synchrosoma.com. This has been really, really amazing. I'm so appreciative of you guys for coming here, for leaving me comments. And if you're coming from the future, please, let me know how it's going. You can always come back. This was fun. Thank you. Yeah, you are so welcome. It was so fun for me too. I really love it. And I love getting on here and doing it. Fun, Mr. Fun. So go have fun today with Mr. Fun, and we will be back again soon. Peace and love, everybody.